Oh, good day, everyone. Good afternoon. Nice to have you with us again as we dig into a very sizzling hot, very personal topic today on self awareness. We want to look at the importance of self awareness, why is it crucial, and how we can develop or cultivate self awareness for leveraging our superpower in 2024. With me, of course, are my co hosts, Dr. Seaford Howell and Dr. Janice Brooks. And we are here because we take this lunch and learn very seriously. And as you munch with us, and as you lunch with us, we want you to understand that we take this session as a coaching, mentoring, and leadership guidance session for those who want to build relationships, for those who want to level up as leaders, for those who want clarity and confidence, and for those who want to take their life on a powerful direction of purpose driven work and significance. I am Dr. Marcia Powell. I am a leadership empowerment coach for Christian professionals, career professionals who are overwhelmed or are feeling burnt out or are feeling stuck. I help to nudge you along and transform you as your transformation partner. I am also a life coach and an author. And then we have Dr. Seaford Howell, who is an expert in his field also and specializes in building relationships and assisting individuals to grow and develop and enrich their relationships with themselves and with others, especially their intimate relationships and especially males. He is also an executive coach and he's also an author. And then we move to Dr. Janice Brooks, who is a life strategist and is certified with the John Maxwell team of coaches, mentors, and leaders, and is also a Christian leadership consultant. We practice separately and we practice as a team. And so we can be contacted at any time. But today, we just want to level up our self awareness. We want to learn from you, and we want you to learn from us as we share what we know, what we have experienced, and what we think are the best ways to go for 2024. And so, the question I want to ask, and be not afraid at all to drop your questions, your suggestions, your concerns, and also your input at any level that you would choose, and we will do our best to highlight it and to place it on our chat line so others can see and benefit from your expertise, your wisdom, and your experience. So I want to start with the question, what would you say is really self-awareness? And Dr. Brooks or Dr. Howell, you can begin, but since it is ladies first, I'll just say Dr. Brooks.
Dr. Marcia, thank you so much. And am I off mute? Yes. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today and another Friday. Thank you so much for that question, Dr. Marcia. I do believe that self-awareness is not just an important area of our life. It is, in fact, a critical area of our lives. I use this quote by John Maxwell. It says, to know yourself, to grow yourself, you must know yourself. And in the simplest sense, self awareness is actually knowing yourself. It is consciously knowing and being aware of your own character, your values, your feelings, your motives, your desires. And once you are aware of all of those things, then it means that you hold the master key to your own life. It's it's you know full and encompasses, let me say that, the whole decision making process, your self control, your learning, your fulfillment. So, this thing called self awareness is literally your whole life in a package. And that's the easiest way to say it.
Ah, so first of all, self awareness is what we know of ourselves. And that, of course, is if we truly confront ourselves. So, self awareness is how we confront ourselves and how we get to know ourselves, as you are saying, our core values and our beliefs, and even our strengths and weaknesses. Do you agree with that, Dr. Howell?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. And you know, I'm always going to be the first to tell a story. And so let's go ahead and start with the story for today. If you look at the story of David,
Yeah.
it said that David was upset because the giant named Goliath was bad mouthing God and the Israelites, and he was beside himself. And so he took it upon himself to go out and challenge this guy. But what he did was he went to a brook and picked up 5 stones.
Mm.
And he knew that he only needed one. But because it's a first time to fail and it's a first time to not meet your goal, he had a backup plan. He had 4 backup stones just in case. But he'd already killed a lion, he'd already killed a bear, he was protecting sheep on a regular basis from wild animals. But he had enough awareness to know I am human, so even though I can probably kill this giant with 1 stone, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take 4 more stones just in case, because he is slightly bigger than me. That's the first story. The second story is a story of a man that's equally as big in the Bible, but his self-awareness was shot. Samson. Samson allowed himself to be played by a woman to the point that he lost his vision and he lost a lot of the pathway that God had set um, him up to actually do or to live. And so Samson, he was aware of his strength, but he wasn't aware of his weaknesses. He wasn't aware of his blind spots. So to me, self-awareness is knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, knowing your values, and knowing your key drivers. He was driven by women and fun. And that became a weakness and a blind spot to the point that he could not tell where when he was getting played by this woman. When we look at the story, we're like, oh man, we see it coming every time. But that's just like my mother, who does not like to play games, but when she stands up and watch people play drafts or checkers and she watches people play card games, she can see all the moves. But when she's sitting down playing in the game, she doesn't have that vision because now there's stress involved and there's action required, and so you tend to stress out yourself because more is riding on it.
Excellent point. And it's very interesting that you brought up Samson because I was going to bring up Samson. And I am of the opinion, based on what you're saying, that we can think we are self aware when in fact we are not. And so we would need some assistance to understand our self awareness, because self awareness is not just knowing our physical attributes. Because some of us know that we are in Jamaica, we just say take life. We are very pretty, we are stunning. And some of us know that our shape is Coca-Cola, and so we are A game, that we are very self-aware of, and everybody else is self-aware too. And there are some persons who are very sure that they can sing. But self-awareness, based on the 2 stories that you have given, is really much more than that. It is the master key to your life. It
Yes.
is understanding and recognizing yourself, your abilities, your weaknesses, your strengths, but it's also a sum total of introspection. You are to constantly check in to see if anything has changed. And if Samson had constantly checked in, he would really remember and know who he is, and he would keep his focus. So self awareness involves a deep reflection or self introspection, as well as it involves a perception of who we really are in our sight, in the sight of God, and who we really are to others. And so it is very essential for personal and professional growth and development that we know ourselves, accept ourselves, and know ourselves. Very good points that are raised there. And I know that this discussion will go in that way. I see people greeting us, and I'm happy to welcome you. I think it is Night that spoke to us. Good afternoon, also. So if it is that we must engage in introspection consistently to keep abreast of ourselves and not go ahead of ourselves and not hinder ourselves and not keep ourselves back, we must also be very cognizant of the perception we have of ourselves. And it must align, as Dr. Brooks says, with our core values and our beliefs, and must also make us think in such a way that we are not dependent on the perspective of others. How, my next question is, does one cultivate this type of self-awareness? How does one cultivate this type of self-awareness that makes them be honest with themselves and honest with the world and show up in the world unapologetically, authentically, purposefully, and intentionally? How do I create that self-awareness? Dr. Howell, can we start with you?
Yes, I was writing down some notes because I know you all always bring some profound points. And so I believe it starts with self management, or well, it starts with self assessment and then self management. You have to manage your beliefs, you have to manage your feelings, you have to manage your emotions. And if you look back at the story of Samson, he did not manage his behaviors. Um, Samson will be a good candidate for journaling because if he were to keep a journal, he'd be able to see how many times that woman asked him for the root of his strength. Because not only should you keep a journal, you should go back and reflect on it to see where you've grown and where you've remained stagnant so that you can continue to manage the process of being self-aware. And so Samson had a lot of areas where he was strong, but like most of us, he had a lot of blind spots. And one of the things that I always talk about is high quality people.
Hmm.
You don't need yes people around you. You need people around you that can check you and say, hey, you crossed the line, check your boundaries, check to make sure that you're living in correlation with your values, with your goals, and with what you're trying to achieve in the end. If you always have people who are riding along with you when things are going high and they always say yes to everything you want to say, then you don't have somebody who's checking you. One thing about having high quality people is the fact that everybody has their own master plan and everybody has their own goals, but there is a high level of accountability that goes with high value people. And if you want to remain in that group, you have to check yourself and make sure that you're going in a direction that's similar to the rest of the group. So having people to hold you accountable, journaling, and self-reflection and self-management on a regular basis are things that I would say and I would suggest that will keep a person moving towards healthy self um, growth. We can't hear you.
So sorry about that. And we are saying we hear you loud and strong. And before we go to Dr. Brooks, we just want to just summarize what you're saying because I was trying to get it in the chat. But cultivating self-awareness is the important point that you have made there is self-management. You must be able to manage self. And to manage self, you are saying you must be brutally honest with yourself. Those are serious statements. You must be brutally honest with yourself. And one of the ways that you can hold yourself accountable is to have persons who will lovingly confront you and also tell you the truth so you do not carry around a false persona. And so managing yourself and managing your support group and managing your environment is extremely important. And telling yourself the truth is the point I want to highlight here. Telling yourself the brutal truth and having those persons who love you enough that they will tell you the truth also. That's so profound. Let us hear you, Dr. Brooks. Agree or disagree?
You know, Dr. Marcia, when I was growing up, my father was a farmer. And as you talked about the word cultivate, that farming came back to my mind. Because my father used to wake up at early times in the morning and he used to go to his field and he would take care of the potatoes, the yam, the fruit trees, and everything. But one thing I know about him is that because he spent so much time with his farming, he knew everything about every single crop. He knew when the time was to plant, when it was to mulch, when it was to weed, everything he knew. And so, to cultivate self awareness, we have to spend time with ourselves. We have to spend time to get to know ourselves. We know everything about everybody else, and we know very little about ourselves.
Mm.
Mhm.
Dr. Marcia, have you ever noticed, and we talked about it already, and Dr. Howell spoke about it early, strengths and weaknesses. Most times, people only think about their strengths and weaknesses when they are going into an interview, and they go and search up because they know it's an interview question that they're going to get. What is your greatest strengths and what is your greatest weakness? And then they go into the research on Google or wherever, and they find the generic answers. And they go and sit in front of the interview and give those generic answers. But in effect, that is not their strengths and their weakness. Some of them don't even know what their strengths and their weaknesses are. And so it is very important that on the journey to cultivating self awareness, we have to spend time with ourselves. We have to get to know our values. We have to think about what is most important to us. And we have to drill down even to core values, because there are values and there are core values. So, to cultivate that self awareness, it needs knowledge of self. You need to know what you are telling yourself at a point in time. And telling yourself is listening to what you're actually saying to yourself. That self-talk is so important in getting to that place of self-awareness. And even the things, Dr. Marcy, I said it yesterday, that you fear, those are things that you need to take note of in cultivating self awareness. Because when you are able to clearly articulate these, it means that you are at a heightened place of self awareness. You have created that self awareness in your life. So you are not just like the leaves that the wind push to and fro. You are firm and you are steadfast. Now you know who you are, and you also know what you're about and where you're going.
Mhm.
So self-awareness, oh my Lord, self-knowledge. Self-awareness that has self-knowledge also has self-management, because self-knowledge, you know what your core values are, what will not change. And you do not go out and buy the same wedding ring that your best friend bought for his wife, because you are really not marrying your friend's wife. You would now understand that you must make your choice based on your likes and your preferences, and the person that you're engaging with. And I'm putting in going into relationships, Dr. Howard, you can clarify and clear that up much later. Or you know that you don't buy a red dress when you really like yellow. Yellow is your favorite color. And so you know yourself, you know what is non-negotiable, you know what you will accept, and you know what will not change, even if fire is under your feet, or a bullet or a gun is at your head. You know that those things will not change. And persons who do not know themselves are really caught up in being very, very, very interested and very keyed up about what people say about them and how people accept them. But self knowledge and self management, which is the sum total of self awareness, allows you to see things clearly and know who you must let go, who you must listen to, who you are to believe. Cultivating self awareness involves also feedback. Feedback is important. And by the way, negative self talk and doubt and lack of faith and procrastination has nothing to do with self awareness. What it is that spirit that comes to tell you that you are not truly aware of self. When you're aware of self, you know that I can sing, but I am not the best singer in the world. And
Mhm.
so you do not kid yourself that you must be on every choir and that you can get Grammy Awards or go on programs, American Idol, or those things, because you really can sing and you really don't turn off people when you sing. But the level at which you are singing does not take you to those realms. Self awareness makes you accept that and are very comfortable with that knowledge that I am not born to sing, I am born to preach. And so you become that excellent preacher, and you know that it becomes so natural to you. that you are not competing with anyone, but when you stand beside someone, you stand out because really, of course, that's your passion or your gift. Self-awareness makes you understand that you can do all things, but you can't do everything. You are not born to do everything, but you get that possibility. Self awareness makes you understand that not everyone will like you, and not everyone you will like. And not everyone is born to walk with you or travel with you, but you are born to connect with everyone and to see how they are. So, self awareness in itself is not a cloak, it is a shield. And it is not so much a shield as it is a sword, because it is something that you use to navigate those things in life that you encounter and confront them and overcome them, because you know what you can do and you know what you can't do. You accept what you can do and you accept what you can't do. You ask for help at the required time. You listen to constructive criticism. You tell yourself the truth because you know yourself and you move forward. So I am saying, and I want to ask, if those things are so important and cultivating self awareness is so important, how do I know that I am successfully, or I am successfully cultivating self-awareness? What are the visible signs of someone that is self-aware? So there is no confusion in our minds, because it is a journey, it is a process, and our seasons change and we become more aware of ourselves, and it changes what triggers us and so on. So how do I know what are the visible signs that I am in fact self-aware despite what is happening around me? Dr. Brooks.
Wow, that is another great question. I'm going to look at it this way, Dr. Marcia. You are sitting in a room and someone enters the room, and right away the atmosphere shifts in a positive direction, not in a negative direction. It tells that that person who walks into the room is self aware.
Mm.
One, because self aware people, they are not arrogant, they are not puffed up, they are not proud. These are some visible signs. They know so much, but sometimes they appear to be the simplest of persons. And they're able to look at things and clarify things in the deepest way. The other way that you can know a self aware person, the visible sign, is that they empower and motivate others to carry that positivity and that positive energy, and to unearth their greatness that is within them wherever they go. These persons are like, they are powerful rivers flowing, but they're flowing so smoothly that sometimes you wonder if they are actually there. They exhume so much. They pour into people, as I said before. They are not arrogant, they are not selfish, they are not self-centered. You can't help but know them when you see them, because they have been persons who have sat with themselves and they get to know themselves, and now they know that this is not all about me, this is about what I have gained, and now I am going to help others to gain the same.
Very much so. And so they have significance and they impact from a very authentic place. Dr. Howell.
I another story again. I was listening to an interview of a very prominent movie star, and he said that he was in the habit of going out and people would grab his door and open the door for him. People would say, "Oh, let me hold that coat for you. Do you need help with this?" He said he went into a room where Jay-Z was, and they were getting ready to leave. And as he goes to the door, he realized that he had to grab the door for Jay-Z because he was not on Jay-Z's level. That to me symbolizes self-awareness, because if you are prominent all the time and you are always being hyped up, but when someone else comes around, if you know that person is more self-aware than you, or if you know that person is higher in society than you, and you're willing to give them the floor, you're willing to be a servant to them, that to me is self-awareness. So if you look at it, self-awareness from a leadership standpoint, a leader is not the best at everything. A leader does not know everything that his team knows. And so at some point in time, he has to be aware enough to
Mhm.
give the floor to someone who is more of an expert in a particular area than he is. So being self-aware as a leader means I know when to relinquish my power
Mm.
someone else and then pick it back up. It
Mm.
also means that I know emotional intelligence. I know my team enough to know that I can't bark at everyone and get the same response. Some I have to use honey. Some I need to use a little vinegar because they need a little fire under their tail in order to get stuff done. Some I need to be the servant leader because I need to lead the way and guide them in a specific way. I can't be laissez faire with people who do not have self motivation because they will not get the job done and they will not meet the deadline. So, part of being a leader is being flexible and in tune with the people around you to make sure that you also manage your self talk because a lot of people, everyone has limiting beliefs. Matter of fact, here's a twist I want to give to self awareness. The research shows that women, on average, tend to be less self aware. In other words, they tend to have more limiting beliefs. They tend to not want to do the presentations. And if they do the presentation, they don't feel like they've done a good job. When in actuality, they've done a better job than the people around them. And on the flip side, men tend to be too overly confident in themselves and they fumble the ball a lot of times in their presentations. And so, if men and women will be a little bit more self aware, women will step up and be more comfortable in their skin with doing what they were born to do. And men would stay in their lane and only stick to stuff that they're good at and stop thinking that they're good at everything and jumping in there and fumbling through all these presentations and all these different tasks that they take upon themselves to do.
I am very happy that you say that men think they are good at everything because that's really what it is. They know they are good at everything. And so I am urging the men who are listening to become more self aware of who you are and understand that a woman who is not as potent as Dr. Howell is saying is because she has to be catering for her self awareness and yours. Come man, step up, man up. What you need to do so we don't have to spend so much time pushing you into that direction. And I agree so much with what both of you are saying. Self awareness means that you know that you can pour into others and others can pour into you. That's a point that Dr. Brooks makes that I don't want us to miss. As self aware persons know, self aware leader or individual also knows when you are to share your knowledge or you are to step away from what you don't know, because not knowing doesn't mean that you don't know. It means that you just don't know this. A self-aware leader in my mind also is very humble, as Dr. Howell has indicated at some point, but it is humbly advantageous, I call it. Humbly advantageous is because you know the power you have, you know what you can do, but you are big enough to allow others to do what they can do and not feel intimidated or threatened. And I remember, when my two children were growing up, I taught them martial arts because I just felt that they must be able to defend themselves. And from a Christian background, they would not have guns, but they would have their hands and feet, and they must use it very, very well because there are persons out there who are very selfish and unkind. And they are very self aware that they are, but they are crabs. They must get everything that they want. And so I wanted them to be protected. And there were many times when my children were provoked or try to be bullied because they try to bully people in school, and they walked away not because of fear, but because they know that if they really should lift up their hands with the techniques and skills that they have, they would maybe break some bones, they would maybe damage some body parts, and these things are not easily acquired in this shop or supermarket. It takes some time for them to mesh. And I'm happy that they had that type of power and control over themselves, because I believe that persons who are self-aware are not cowards, but they know when to walk away and when to run. They actually know when to stand up to people, and they know what is worth their time and what is not. And so, in every area of their lives, they try to become their best self, and they really try to be the bigger person at all times if they are self aware. We call that self management, and it's emotional intelligence, being able to manage yourself and knowing and setting the example for others to manage themselves also. So there are some key points that are coming out: humility, flexibility, adaptability, authenticity, creativity, and also that power that makes you know that you can do what you were born to do, but you must know your time and your season. And so the person who is self aware is also wise enough to know that this might not be the best time. So that person is observant, and that person is also discerning. And so those are some of the key traits of a self-aware person. And so if you're not demonstrating those traits, and I'm speaking to persons in the audience now, you need to see what is it that you need to build up, what is it that you are lagging behind in as a self-aware person. Are you always anxious? Are you always angry? Are you very reactive instead of responsive? Do you allow persons to trigger you the wrong way? Are you always trying to compete instead of collaborate with others? Those are some of the things that make you know you're not self-aware, because self-aware gives you the type of maturity that makes you able, as we said before, to share yourself and make an impact and pour into others without expecting them to pour into you. And so the next question I want to ask, if that is the case now, I have put some questions on the floor. What are some other deep questions that we need to ask ourselves on the journey of becoming self-aware? So I might be lagging behind. How do I know if I'm lagging behind? What are some of the deep questions that I need to ask myself? Dr. Brooks.
Dr. Marcia, I personally believe, and I hear you try to test Dr. Howard a minute ago about the men, and but Dr. Howell is an relationship expert, and he is an excellent one. What he does, and I personally believe,
Very
Dr.
much
Marcia,
so.
that relationships are critical to life. Every relationship, whether it's workplace, intimate, all of these relationships. And I believe that every person should do some self-assessment, particularly for close relationships, Dr. Marcia and Dr. Howell. And Dr. Howell will do a session on that at some point in time.
Yes.
But I believe that if persons were sitting with that other person who they want to enter into relationship with and asking the right questions and really listening for the answers, some relationships would not be together. And you would know what the person is about and how self-aware that person is. Questions, Dr. Marcia, like what are some of the things that make you feel content and fulfilled? Some persons don't even know you ask them, and they're trying to figure out what make me feel content. Being in a relationship with that person now without knowing, you have a significant challenge, because you don't know what is going to make that person feel fulfilled. And
Mm,
even yourself, you need to ask that question. And what are some of the things that people come to me for? What are my, and that can be asking strength and weakness. What do people look to me for? What are some of the qualities that I have that I bring to my relationships? What and this one, even what are some addictions that I have? Because some people think addictions are only drugs, but some person can have addiction to what they think is noise or dust or some
mm,
simple thing. and that may irritate another person, and they don't realize that that is not even something that they need to be holding on to about themselves. And I'm going to give just two more, because there are hundreds of self-awareness questions that people need to ask themselves. What is one sentence that I could use to describe myself? What is one thing I need to tell myself? These are some deep self-awareness questions that we need to ask ourselves, and each person need to ask themselves to get to know themselves. And the last one is, what do I love about myself? Oh my God,
Hmm.
some people are so self-critical that if you ask them, they can't find a thing that they love about themselves. What are you doing
Hmm.
here in the world if there is nothing you love about yourself? Then it makes sense you're gone. If
Hmm.
there is not a thing that you love about yourself. So people have to go through those deep self-awareness questions in order to know who they are, and in turn help others to know who they are as well.
Very much so. And powerful. And what do I love about myself? Is so important. Who am I? Is a good question. If I'm not Dr. Janice Brooks, if I'm not Dr. Howell, if I'm not Dr. Marcia Thomas, who am I really? When all is said and done, if I lose everything, who would I be? Who would I be? And it's nice to see you, Janet, and to hear from you. It's great to have you, family member. Happy Friday also. Dr. Howell, can we have some more questions that we need to ask? And
Yeah.
I think we need to ask these relationship questions, as Dr. Brooks has indicated. So she has indicated questions that we need to ask ourselves as individual before we align ourselves with other people, to make sure we know ourselves and we can be of benefit and value, you say, to others. What are some other questions that we need to ask ourselves as we what do you say now, navigate our relationships, personal and professional?
I want to take what Dr. Janice said and take it one step further. Is what I like about myself enough to attract or keep
Mm.
the type of
Mm.
people that I'm trying to attract and keep? Because we are living in a society now where you have OnlyFans and everyone wants to show their body, but then you're getting dogs and fleas. And then you wonder, hey, why do I keep attracting dogs and fleas? And it's because what you like and what you treasure about yourself is only capable of attracting dogs and fleas. And so some of the questions that you need to ask yourself are, what is my love map and how can I convey that information to someone else? So if I want someone to know intimate things about me and know me on a deeper level, what do I need to share with them so that they will have a better understanding of me than everyone else around me? What are some of the biases? Question number two, what are some of the biases that have impacted my life that sway my decisions in a negative way that I need to overcome? That is the second one. A third question that I would like to ask is, what are some of the things that I have gone through in the past, those hurts and those pains that have caused me to look at things differently so that I no longer benefit from all of the positives that are available to me in life? Um, do I have obsessive focus in the right way? A lot of us, we obsessively focus on the negatives, on the limiting beliefs. But do I obsessively focus on my positives? Do I obsessively focus on the things I want to achieve in my life so that they can become part of my subconscious? Because unknowns to a lot of us, 95% of the time we are operating on autopilot. And that autopilot is influenced by childhood events and
Mm-hmm.
by decisions that we've made in the past.
Very much so.
So when we're living on autopilot, what is the white noise that we're listening to? What are the negative talks that we're saying to ourselves that limits our ability to find success, to keep success, to find love, and to keep love? Am I looking through my life to see all of the things that are impacting me in negative ways that stop me from finding the love that I want? from keeping the love that I want, from loving myself, and from finding where I want to go in life and the direction to get there. So these are some questions that you can ask yourself if you really want to do an honest deep dive into self awareness.
Powerful, powerful points you have made here, especially with the dogs and fleas. I got a little nervous right there because those are a very strong attraction and they are not as pleasant as we would want them to be. Fleas are very, very disgusting and very annoying. And so, but the point you want to make is very clear. And there are some questions that have stood out for me that I want my audience to bear in mind. What do I like about myself that will help me to attract the persons I want to have in my life? Such important questions. What is my love map? And how do I share that with someone else? How do I? Because so many times persons are not aware of what they really want because they have been so cultured and programmed to think that this is what I want, this is what I need. But in fact, it doesn't serve your purpose. What have I gone through in the past that have allowed me to look at life negatively? So I'm now unable to focus on the positives that are now entering my life. Powerful, profound questions. And from a leadership and social relationship team point of view, I want us to ask ourselves this question. What is it that triggers me? And how am I triggered by others? And most importantly, how do I trigger others? Because there are some very hard workers in our institutions and who are able to work, but just those things that I've gone through in the past that make me look at life negatively, make me come off as so critical, as the enemy of someone, when that's really not my intention. And so, what triggers me? How am I triggered, and how do I trigger others? What are my patterns and routines? What are those patterns and routines that I have that prevents me from achieving what I want to achieve? What are the mindsets that I carry around with me that makes me halt and pause and procrastinate and talk to myself negatively and distract me from my real focus and achieving my goals? And finally, the next question we want you to ask yourself, which is very deep as it relates to self awareness. How do I see myself 5 years from now? And what are the steps that I'm taking to get there? Very, very important. And so, because we believe in it, our time has crunched on us. We want to ask a final question because we believe that these sessions are really not to but expertise together and to share our wisdom alone, but to empower you and to become navigators and masters of your own destiny, to be more confident in yourself, to gain the clarity that you need to navigate 2024 and to level up in whatever capacity you operate, you function, you exist as better persons, always delivering your best self confidently and unapologetically. So we want to leave with you some strategies that you can embrace or some steps that will build your self awareness and help you to maintain your authentic self. Dr. Howell, I need two of those, and then you're wrapping up statements.
Okay, no problem. Um, what's the best way? What's some techniques that you can use? Well, I'm a fond believer in journaling. Journaling allows you to look back and see your growth, but journaling also allows you to look back and see your pitfalls. And so, being not just journaling, but taking the time out weekly and monthly to look back and see where you can grow, areas where you have the potential to become slightly better week by week. A lot of times people think that becoming self-aware is like a switch you can switch on right away, but it's the little things that we do day by day that increases our negativity or increases our positivity. And so journaling and looking back at it on a regular basis. Next thing that I would want to say to do is to find a mentor or a confidant or someone who, high quality people who will hold you accountable for being the best version of yourself that you can possibly be, and allowing that person to be brutally honest with you in a loving way, not taking it personal. Because a lot of times when people tell us something we don't want to hear and it stings a little, we want to lash out at them, forgetting that we gave them the permission to be brutally honest. And then, secondly, if you are the person who has been asked by someone to be brutally honest with them, be brutally honest with them, but in love. Try to find the best way forward. Try to find the best way to communicate your information to them. Don't just blurt it out in an evil way and then tell them, hey, you told me to be honest. You know, find the best loving way to do it. So you asked me for two things. Those are two things.
Thank you so much. So we want to say it's regularly checking in with yourself, journaling, accepting yourself the truth, and getting feedback from the high quality people. Feedback is extremely important. Your take, Dr. Brooks.
Excellent points again, Dr. Howell. I want to use this as my foundation to close. I believe it was in the book of James, yes, where he said, therefore confess your faults one to another, so that you might be healed. And many times people think healing is all about illness, but healing can also be in the mind, the lack of knowledge. And your mind need to be healed from negative thoughts and emotions and all kind of things. Dr. Howell talked about mentors. I want to say that there are many things that we can do on our own, and there are many other things that we need help to do. Seek help if you are sitting in a place of lack of self-awareness, which is a critical aspect of life. Without your mind, you can do nothing. And that is where self-awareness sits. When you think about people who have lost their mind, you realize that they can do nothing for themselves, actually. So seek help to move into a place of heightened or a place of self-awareness. I want to say, pay attention. Pay attention to things that you hear, things that you see. Pay attention to your environment. I want to say, be curious, ask questions, because questions open door. Don't assume anything. Ask questions. Stay as best as you can in the know. Learn as much as you can. Research things. Be purposeful about what you do. Don't take anything for granted. And the last thing I'm going to say, put some time in your calendar to work on your own self-awareness. Put some time in your calendar, even if it's 10 minutes per day, to sit with yourself and learn something about becoming more self-aware. Dr. Howell talk about journaling. Write it down if you have to, whatever you learn. Write yourself 5 questions to ask yourself today, and ask yourself these questions and try to answer them. Those are step by step, practical, easy ways to really move into a heightened or state of self-awareness, or even to start gaining self-awareness.
I totally agree fully. There are so many things that have come out there that I want to summarize before I end this session. And we are looking that mentorship and coaching and therapy are some of the best ways to go to seek help. You know, you cannot change what you're not aware of. And sometimes we think we really know ourselves and we don't. And so we need this type of session, this type of guidance, this type of push or pull to understand where we are. And then we have heard of feedback, and I want to introduce the 360 feedback. The 360 feedback is really the sum or the composite reactions and the loving contributions, whether negative or positive, from our colleagues and our friends and our circle, whether at work or not, whether high quality or not. And we must look at what is common in those circles, the common reactions, and we must feed those that are good and we must remove those that are negative. And what do I mean by negative? I mean that there are some things that person tell you that are having a negative effect on them. For example, you are too honest. That is a non-negotiable. You must remain honest and true to yourself so you cannot be false to any man. And so there are some times when you really get truth, but the truth in itself is a truth that you must not let go. Full of integrity, those you must keep. Full of respect, those you must keep. Because in the final analysis, persons can only speak of you in those ways, and those persons include your enemies. And so we want to also look at self care. This is where I want to end. A lot of times we achieve less or below what is our maximum harnessing of our power because we are so distracted mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. We are not buttoning up, we are not nurturing ourselves and our spirits to contact and to confront the challenges that come upon us. So I want to say, in all you're getting, get self care, maintain yourself, power up yourself, pour into yourself. Those things, whether through reading, learning, whether through coaching or mentoring, whether through assessment or feedback, whether through high quality group, whether through regular check-ins with yourself, nurture and pour into yourself those things that will always equip you and keep you unapologetically and confidently being your best self. And so we end with a Bible text that I want us to look at because God Himself is very particular about self awareness because that way you will not be deceived by every wind of doctrine or everybody's opinion. You will not be shaken. You will not be tossed about. You will not be double minded. You will not be unstable in your ways if you get wisdom. If you understand, know, and love and accept yourself, then you are on the right way to gain understanding. And this, the Bible says, is more important than silver and gold and yields better return than gold. The Bible says wisdom is more precious than rubies, and nothing you desire can compare with her. Do not forsake wisdom, and she will protect you. That's so important. Do not forsake wisdom, understanding and knowing and loving yourself, because that will protect you. Love wisdom, and she will watch over you. The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom. Though it costs all you have, get understanding. The one who gets wisdom loves life. The one who cherishes understanding will soon prosper. And all of those come from Proverbs. Have a good day today. And I want us to nurture that self and that self awareness by putting together your celery, your carrot, your apple, and of course your ginger. And that in itself will boost your energy mentally, physically, and spiritually. And there are other ways, because we are not leaving out the men, that it will ignite the men to be their best selves in their relationships. And so we say, have a great day and prepare for next week where we will be dealing with another sizzling topic. I am Dr. Marcia Thomas Powell. I empower Christian career professionals and also as a Christian life coach, help persons who are stuck or overwhelmed or who need the boost to be 100% more yielding as they become their best self, they become resilient and purpose driven. Today, we want you to go out and look at getting your copy so you're not left behind as it relates to self awareness. A leader like you, which says harnessing your superpower as a Christian career professional. I was joined by Dr. Howell, who will introduce himself and will also tell you his book that he's promoting this week. And then Dr. Brooks, who will tell you her book that she's promoting this week for self awareness.
Dr. Howell?
We are not hearing you, Dr. Howell. Oh, he's gone. Oh, my. Go, Dr. Brooks. He'll come back.
Okay, he's gone. All right. So I just want to, as you talked about the celery and the all kind of things, I just want to remind everyone that blueberries is a great way. Make a blueberry smoothie. It's a great way to keep your mind flowing. It's good for the brain. It's good for the functions, the cognitive functions. Each week, add in a blueberry smoothie to your day or to your week. This week, I am promoting the Life Navigator, your Life Navigator weekly guide. And if you go to my website and put in your email information, my website is drjanicebrooks.com. I will be sure to send you a weekly guide of self awareness, the topic we dealt with today. I will be able to send you a weekly guide of self awareness. I am Dr. Janice Brooks, leadership coach and consultant, part of the Maxwell team, and also a licensed counselor. Please get your weekly guide, print it out, keep it somewhere so that can guide you on your journey to greater self awareness. Thank you
Great.
so much again for joining us.
And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter and our blog pages, all of us. And also to join us on Tuesdays on LinkedIn as we do our live, LinkedIn Live, and also to also join us at our fireside chat on a Tuesday at 8 p.m., where we bring in an expert that deals with any topic that you need to navigate life. Until next week, God be with you. Enjoy your weekend. And may you go with your self awareness to a heightened state that you maintain and carry with you good, good, good vibrations. See you next week.